Hello and welcome to Sterilization Standards Unpacked, Navigating Canada's Dental Guidelines, where we'll talk about the evolution of dental sterilization, the people shaping it, and the standards guiding it forward. I'm your host, Sarah B. Cruz, and in every episode, we'll connect innovation to intention, because progress in dentistry doesn't just happen. It's built through consistency, clarity, and care. Here, we'll explore the practices that protect patients, the standards that impact process, and the professionals who set the tone for excellence. Whether you're in the operatory, the sterilization room, or leading a team, this space is for those who believe that quality isn't a checkbox, it's a mindset. Sterilization Standards Unpacked, Navigating Canada's Dental Guidelines is supported by Solventum, creating smarter, safer ways to deliver healthcare and advancing the future of dentistry through innovation and education. So let's get ready to get dirty and go dental. Hello and welcome to Sterilization Standards Unpacked, Navigating Canada's Dental Guidelines, presented by Solventum and hosted on the amazing Beyond Clean Network. Hello, my fellow medical device reprocessing technicians, sterile processing technicians if you're joining us from the Americas. And of course, let's not forget the focus of this podcast series, all of our dental assistants, dental hygienists, and hopefully a few dentists hanging out with us today, because this podcast series is all about the evolution of dental standards currently happening right now all across the nation of Canada. You'll see in this podcast series that we have representatives, technicians, professionals, all checking in and sharing their experience with the new CSA Z314 2023 updates. And in this episode, we are going to be sharing the stage with our very own Dr. Atila Nozari about how we even got to this point, right? Because standards aren't born overnight, and thankfully they're not, because with the way that they roll out, things take a little time. And as you'll learn throughout this podcast series, even provinces have different takes on all the different updates. But we are happy to say that I believe personally, as someone who has been studying the significant changes happening in Canada, I personally, as an American, am overwhelmingly impressed with how much impact this is having in the dental industry. Seeing as how I am participating in our very own AMI, which is very similar to the CSA Z314 and all of the other Canadian agencies working together on standards, I'm appreciating the insight and the background workings that are happening to make these huge updates a reality. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, let me bring our special guest, Dr. Atila Nozari, to the stage. He is the Senior Medical Liaison for Solventum and has a major part in global standards and activity on their behalf as well. Atila, how are you?
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I want to just say hello to all of your listeners, all people who are listening to these podcast series.
Well, I think if they could, they would be saying it all back, because we are about to demonstrate why people should start bragging about their autoclaves. Because there's obviously this glamorous side to dentistry that's all about the veneers and the billboards and the whitening, but we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of dentistry standards. Atila, just share with our audience what we're about to get into with this.
Yes, so standards are, just one of the most favorite topics in the world for me. So standards and guidelines. So it's I'm happy that I'm talking about this actually. I want to start by, the purpose of the standards like CSA Z314 is to create a common evidence-based framework that protects patients and supports healthcare professionals. So they translate the science and best practices into clear, actionable requirements, ensuring that whether you are in hospital or a dental clinic or any community health setting, you receive the same level of health and safety and quality applies. So today we want to actually start by what does it 314 is composed of and how we have developed, or where we are today, all the steps, all the paths that we've gone through to reach this level that we have this standard, not only Z314, but also the dental standards from different provinces that we have in Canada. So we'll go a little bit back and then walk through and come to the stage that we are in today.
Yes, and it's going to be a good trip down memory lane, a little bit of a history class, and that's going to be really important for the foundations for the rest of our podcast series. Like Atila was referencing, the National Framework for Reprocessing Reusable Medical Devices across all healthcare settings, including dental, right? So as we get going, please keep in mind that we are going to start with the 2018 version of the CSA Z314. And we're going to see how, just based on the 18, then the impact of all the provinces and doing their best application of best practice, right? And how it's led us to the 2023 that I personally think puts everything together with a nice bow. What do you say, Atila?
Yeah, I agree. So, of course, definitely we should start by foundation, right? So the standard Z31418 is actually, and this standard alone, it integrated back then, it updated and replaced several other set of standards basically to one document. So we had Z314-0-3-8, -10.1, 10.2, -14, -15, -22, and 23. So they were several documents actually that they all basically combined, and some part that were repetitive in those documents, they were eliminated. So the committee back then decided that we want to have one document. We want to have one reference document, so make it easier for people that they are looking for information standards. Instead of referring to 9 separate standard documents that I mentioned, just the numbers for them, just having one document. So actually that was one we had with Z314-18 is a combination of 9 documents, and those documents, of course, they were general requirements, effective sterilization in the steam processes, in the ethyl oxide processes, in reusable medical devices. What about the gowns and drapes and how they are used in facilities, about laundering, about maintenance, about preparation, about disposable devices as well, about single-use or unreusable devices. So all these documents, they gathered together, and then we had this Z314-18 that it was, and that means that in 2018 it got published. But that was not just the only difference. So, and that was basically a very huge step that then we had all this documented as one. But then we changed to a 2023 version of it. So then another update, but this time is one document. It's not like previous time that we are having 9. It's still one document, making it easier for us. But what changes happened was, we can start by title. The title for Z314-18 was Canadian Medical Device Reprocessing. We realized as a committee that everyone who participates in this, as you know, it is just a good participation of all the stakeholders in the standard setting. So end users, definitely, because they are using this document, are a very important critical part of that. Industry is a part of that. Regulatory is a part of that. Generalist is a part of that. Non-profit and other organizations are part of this document. So all together, basically, this committee sits together to come to this consensus when having this document. The idea was that we should make it more comprehensive. When we have Canadian Medical Device Reprocessing title, it wasn't as comprehensive as it should be, as at least it sounds when someone's seeing the title. So in 2023, actually, it changed to Canadian Medical Device Reprocessing in all healthcare facilities. So all care settings. Even having that title, it want to highlight that this document is not for hospitals. It's for all the healthcare settings that they are having healthcare provided. And so the definition got updated. The definition is that any location where healthcare is provided, including emergency care, pre-hospital care, hospitals, long-term care, home care, ambulatory care, and facilities and location in the community where the care is provided. So that's include dental offices.
And I like how by making it more inclusive and thinking of the patient as this holistic view, this close, everyone is a patient no matter where they're getting serviced in any type of facility, really made a big call to action to these healthcare providers, these healthcare spaces, but also to the individuals writing the standards. So huge kudos to the 2023 group that worked so tirelessly to work on that. But I do think it is important to take a small moment of recognition and recognize Quebec, because in 2009, they were one of the first provincial documents to outline the dental expectations, as I was learning. And so it seemed like Quebec had started that conversation and really got that 2018 ball rolling. And that's that huge break with the provinces, and as someone who lives in the States, I guess we can view provinces as different hospitals because, we're here just trying to apply our best practices in the way that we're interpreting the standards and the way that regulatory bodies expect us to, right? So having entire areas of provinces really taking the reins and implementing this is very, well, it's impressive. So Atila, as someone who's in that space, can you tell us a little bit more about provinces and how they're taking it and running with it? Maybe you can help us understand that a bit.
Very good analogy, right? So how the states are different in, United States, right? The states, they can have their own separate guidelines and best practices. Provinces in Canada can do the same. And standards, most of the time, what they refer to, they say that follow your local laws and regulation, and that's the one that it's kind of emphasizes that each provinces, because we have to be mindful of the different provinces, the different level of the practice being happening, and also resources available, and the number of the processing happening. So there are lots of factors need to be considered. That's why we have these provincial guidelines, and different provinces, they just, you started with the example of Quebec. So they had this really, started that, they had this 2009 guideline. And again, their best practices that was in that document is get updated, how standards are not dead documents, they're alive. So by more evidence we get, by more evidence-based knowledge we get, and then we feel they need that, okay, we need to update because of technology is also evolving, right? All of these things happening, that's what they made that, these things happen. And then Quebec started the prevention and control infections and reprocessing medical devices in Quebec. They tried to have a document, I think initially in 2022, but then they realized that they want to do some more updates until in 2024, basically they got the document out. So, and that's in, in different provinces is different. For example, in Ontario, I want to give Ontario where I reside in. So in Ontario, what is that? Is basically the standards is the infection prevention and control in dental offices is developed by Royal College of Dental Surgeons in Ontario. Sometimes it's just one college is actually developing the dental standards like what we have in Ontario, but sometimes in other places there are several organizations. So several, I can give example of like Saskatchewan. So several organizations together, they develop this one. So in case of Saskatchewan, I can say like infection prevention control standards in oral health care facility, College of Dental Surgeons, Saskatchewan Dental Therapists Association, Saskatchewan Dental Hygienists Association, Saskatchewan Dental Assistant Association, and other assistants as well. So I want to just, again, it's not a comprehensive list, I'm just mentioning some of them, but I want to just highlight that in some places one college is overseeing all of that. In some places there are different associations because it's important that everyone's voice get heard. So, and then that, of course, again, we have a very important document, as I mentioned, Z314, and then this, okay, how much can we align to that one?
Yeah, and first of all, I love the word Saskatchewan. That is awesome. And then we think of Alberta, who in 2021 was really using that 2018 update as the primary technical source, and that includes small facility examples, which was really exciting, right? Now you're getting into that nitty gritty. Hey, Alberta's like, look, even these small facilities have to gain and buy into this, level of accountability, right? Because I almost feel like, because I truly believe that the 2023 update really said, when a practice commits to standards, it's not just following the rules, it's providing accountability, traceability, and dare I say, even a quality management system. Well, I mean, you know how I feel about quality management systems, so.
I do know that. So, no, I totally agree with that. That's a very good point that you mentioned, right? It's important that we want to have the same level of quality and care for everyone. It depends, regardless of the facility happening. I always say this one. Microorganisms, they do not differentiate, right? We have to be mindful. Microorganisms, they do not differentiate if you are in a hospital or if you are in a dental office. They are not going to say, oh, because you are in a dental office, I'm not going to make you sick. No. If microorganisms are there on the devices, if devices are not properly reprocessed, they are going to do what they do. So that's why I do agree with this one, that every small place in the community, any healthcare setting, offices, everywhere that is possible, as much as possible, we have to be follow the guidelines. But also that's why we have these dental associations helping that, because in dental clinics, we do not have the resources or the size of the facility or the area that we do the reprocessing happening, and like the one that's happening in the hospital. So that's why we have to be mindful of that. But the one-way workflow is a must regardless. So that's why we have these differences.
And this is going to be a perfect space in this first episode. We're going to put a little pin in it. We're going to take a break and hear a word from our sponsors. And you all are actually going to listen to our first mid-session break called Practice Defined. So if at any point you want to keep re-listening to this first episode over and over again, keep in mind that every episode will have a practice defined, and we'll keep you up to date with all of the terms that Atila is referring to. We'll be right back. It's time for Practice Defined, a quick pause to unpack a key term shaping dental sterilization and safety. Today, we'll talk about air removal and steam penetration tests. Commonly known as the Bowie-Dick test, this procedure confirms that pre-vacuum sterilizers can remove air efficiently and allow steam to fully penetrate porous loads. According to the CSA Z314, Reprocessing of reusable medical devices in healthcare settings, these tests must be performed at the start of each day the sterilizer is used. Whether completed with traditional test packs or electronic systems that record and store results, air removal verification is a daily baseline for safety and performance in every dental clinic. That's Practice Defined. Now that we're one term closer to excellence, let's jump back into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you are just joining this episode, please stop and go back to the beginning, because Dr. Atila Nozari is really giving us a great foundation setting history lesson. Thank you again for being with us, Dr. Atila. I really appreciate your time today.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, before we went on break, we started to allude to, the oppositions. And even when you were giving that amazing microorganism analogy, it almost kind of felt overwhelming for me just hearing it, because I remember when I started in sterile processing, it's not that the medical device reprocessing industry was going through this, but I had learned how the traditional medical device reprocessing industry was applying this and seeing the updates to their standards and really starting to get into what microbial protection, infection prevention actually looks like. So it's almost like I'm watching, history repeat itself, because now it's being applied to the dental space, ambulatory spaces where I am. So what have you experienced, and what type of advice can we give dental facilities to, aid them in this application? Because it's really changing how they do cleanings, dare I say.
perfect question. I would maybe again just we are talking about the foundations, right? I will refer to the foundation. This document that we have, also the part of the reprocessing and the level of reprocessing happening is going back to the Spalding classification, right? We have critical devices in semi-critical device or non-critical devices. Of course, now during years now we have had some, let's say, updated Spalding classification, and that's why it's not. Then an update means that some of devices have changed. So, for example, some devices that in the past they had semi-critical application, now they are being used as critical application. So basically, Spalding classification is still available. I mean, it still is valid. So now we have to be mindful of that. So why we are doing this certain level of processing for different items, we have to just check that, okay, is it a critical application? Does it have critical application? Then it requires sterilization. Does it have semi-critical application, or is it just non-critical? And this part is the same. This part is going to be the same either wherever you are. So if you are in dental setting or if you are in ambulatory or a big hospital setting. So this part is going to be important. We need to be mindful of that. And I think that some dentists, they need to be maybe oversee about their activities. Okay, the application of the instrument they're using is what? And based on that, they decide, okay, what is needed. If something needs, just in, again, critical cases, critical use devices, reusable devices, then it needs a sterilization. And if we need a sterilization is defined in the standards. And what steps are necessary to basically to reach there. We know that sterilization itself, we cannot see it, we cannot touch it, we cannot test it. As soon as you touch a device which was sterile or open a pack that was sterilized, it is unsterile anymore, right? That's why we need to have some quality control, quality checks. So basically use quality controls to make sure that it has happened.
Yes, and you hit the nail on the head, and not quality management systems aside, right? The structure and framework that ensures consistent, documented, and auditable processes, right, for reprocessing. But even just going back to the chemical indicators, if you're using a type 4 verification, is that enough if it's going to be something that comes in contact with a sterile environment, right? If so, it needs to have a type 5 integrator, and we need to be doing biological indicators, really testing for those spores in our sterilizers, and then even using a variety of process challenge devices, right? Those test packs designed to challenge the sterilization process, and I think it just speaks volumes to how the industry keeps growing, because there's the traditional test pack, and now you even have rapid readout test packs that take the human guessing out completely. So just with this small explanation that Dr. Till is referring to is a slew of new education, application, and frankly, how you've done things and not doing it the way you've always done them.
That's absolutely right. Again, it's actually, it's one of the differences, right? One of the differences that we have between dental clinics and dental settings with with bigger healthcare facilities is even their sterilizers. And again, sometimes some of these dental clinics are part of bigger organization. Like, for example, they're a dental clinic inside a big hospital. So they may have access to big sterilizers. And some places they have smaller, what we call them, tabletops. So how we are going to, now I have a tabletop sterilizer and then I have a big sterilizer. Should I just, because it's tabletop, because it's smaller, I just maybe omit some of the steps? No, I cannot do that. It does not mean, because even the standards that Ivan mentions that if it's the process happening, if this sterilization process happening, then we need to have the checks to make sure that it happens. But very good point you touched upon that. It's the process challenge devices, and now actually is that 423 has more information about how to make even how to about this process challenge devices, that it is suitable. Sometimes the process challenge devices are too much challenging for a smaller one. So really here we have to highlight that follow instruction for use, and then that's for a smaller one we might have or tabletop, what's the size of that, and based on the standards defines that does this size the volume of inside the sterilizer classifies as a tabletop or classifies as a regular bigger sterilizers. So that one will define that maybe the type, maybe the part or the process challenge device that uses different, but regardless, a process challenge device needs to be used. And a very important point was about type 5 or type 6 chemical indicators. Yet, if they are implantable parts, and mostly that's happening is actually in the dental side, then a type 5 and 6 is required. So what type of information we get? Type 4 gives us limited information. Type 5 is the one that mimicking the biological indicator response, and type 6 is defined for only one specific cycle. So we have to basically revisit what we are doing. If we are using a type 6, for this specific cycle, if our cycle changes, then you have to go and use another type 6 that is defined for that specific cycle. If you are using type 5 corresponds to all 3 critical process variables, and then you can use for all of the cycles. But the other ones like type 4, yes, is allowed, but if you are, again, in the cases that it's not going to be implantable inside that tray or load. So we have to really revisit what the guidelines telling us, what our provincial guidelines are requiring us, and sometimes we can just go above and beyond standards. Standards, they do not stop you there. The standards, they tell you the minimum, but you can go above and beyond.
Yes, and I know that standards tell the minimum, but I still can't stop myself from thinking that the 2023 really set that bar high enough, and the key takeaway is that provincial interpretations vary, but standards unify outcomes. And it went even further to say patients unify outcomes, right? Like you said, it doesn't matter where we are or what's happening in that space. It's how we're making sure what's happening is having the highest quality impact and the greatest patient safety outcome. And I can't wait to use the rest of this podcast series to really demonstrate and get into that technical nitty-gritty with our guests to show them just how profound and these huge steps that dental is taking, and really the big call to action to the frontline professionals in them. And Atila, you did a great job on this history trip. I am so grateful it was you that did it, because I couldn't imagine being the one to even try and explain this as someone who doesn't even live in the country. It's just, I don't think I would have done it justice like you did today. So thank you again for being our special guest.
Thank you so much again for having me. And just, I want to maybe say a word here. Ultimately, I see standards not as rigid rules, but they are also as educational tools that they can empower healthcare professionals to understand why behind it best practices. And as you very beautifully summarized that the Z314 is trying to have a one harmonized standard for Canada, and all provinces are basically moving towards that. So we have integrity for our healthcare system. Thank you.
Excellent and well said. Let's continue to contribute to a culture of safety that really defines Canadian dentistry and just how much Canadians can impact the overall outcome of patient safety. Remember, folks, progress isn't perfection, it's participation. And like Atila said, these are living, breathing documents that change. And frankly, they only live and breathe because you live and breathe them in your best practices where you are. Join me next time as we explore what makes dental sterilization unique and how these differences shape the way we define safe, consistent care across Canada. I'm Sarah B. Cruz, and keep fighting dirty and solving with momentum. Bye. Thanks for listening to Sterilization Standards Unpacked, Navigating Canada's Dental Guidelines, where we connect innovation to intention and recognize the progress driving dentistry forward. Every conversation here is a reminder that progress doesn't just live in policies and products. It lives in people, the professional choices we make, the standards we uphold, and the care we deliver every day. If today's discussion inspired and motivated you, share it with your team and keep the conversation going. Sterilization Standards Unpacked, Navigating Canada's Dental Guidelines, is supported by Solventum, creating smarter, safer ways to deliver healthcare and advancing the future of dentistry through innovation and education. I'm Sarah B. Cruz. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, keep fighting dirty and solving with momentum.